Everybody, if you like Jon's work, you want to hear him on the Talk North Sports Report with Mark Rosen, Rebekkah Brunson, LaVelle Neal III, myself, and Steve Janaszak from the 1980 Olympic team. We had a great time at Parlay Kitchen and Bar thanks to Giggly.com. If you don't know what we're doing up here, this is our podcast network is called Talk North, and this is one of our live shows. This is our roundtable. We're very lucky to have the great Mark Rosen emceeing. Today we have Jon Krawczynski from The Athletic, who does the Jon Krawczynski Show at TalkNorth.com, one of our most popular shows on the Timberwolves in the NBA. We have LaVelle Neal III, my longtime friend and colleague from the Star Tribune. He's one of my partners on the Chin Music Baseball Show at TalkNorth.com. We are hoping to have Rebekkah Brunson here. The flight coming back from Seattle seems to have been delayed. She's going to try to make it here. And then after the show, we have Steve Janaszak from the 1980 Miracle on Ice team is going to be signing autographs courtesy of Fan HQ, which is the premier sports memorabilia business in the Twin Cities. They're located out in Ridgedale Mall. You probably have heard of them. So great to have Steve here as well. Hopefully, Rebekkah will make it in time to be a part of the roundtable. We're going to kick some stuff around. We're going to have some fun. We appreciate you being here. Thanks to Parlay Kitchen and Bar for having us. Thanks to Giggly for sponsoring the show and for giving me something to drink every night. I appreciate it. And now, here's Mark Rosen.
All right, thanks, Jim. Thanks. Yeah, it's nice to be here. Another beautiful afternoon here in the Twin Cities. It's been. I've had a blast. I appreciate Jim and everybody associated with Talk North Sports just to be involved with the podcast on a weekly basis and getting to interview some of my friends, some other people I know, but not in a real personal way. And I love the format. I've gotten great response from it, and I'm going to continue to do it as long as I possibly can because we got some great people that we got involved with it.
And by the way, Mark, for us, is doing Mark Rosen's Sports Monday, and it does get published on Monday, and he's interviewed a great variety of people, some great people from sports, not just from sports. So please check that out at the website as well.
Thanks, Jim. Yeah. So we will get going with our panel right now. There's certainly a lot to chew on in the sports world. That's what we're going to concentrate on right now. And since we are here after a Twins afternoon game, the Rangers apparently missed the extra point, won the game only 16-3 this afternoon. So the Twins ended up taking 1 of 3 from the Rangers. That was last night. The other 2 games, they basically got 41 donut. So it was an ugly situation, and I'll talk to our ball guys here in particular, Jim and LaVelle Neal, to kind of get a sense on what in the hell is going on. Is this the kind of the domino effect of post Pablo Lopez not being a part of this pitching staff, and how they're going to fill the blanks because poor Bailey Ober didn't have any idea what he was doing out there today.
Yeah, Bailey said this after his last outing that he's been struggling mechanically to find where he needs to be to have the command and to have the sharpness of the pitches that he's used to throwing. And we saw that again today as he gave up a couple early home runs and just looked all out of sorts. So right now the Twins have 2 reliable starters, and that's Joe Ryan and Chris Paddock, who everybody expected to be traded during the offseason. You don't know what you're getting from Bailey now. Festa bounced back yesterday with a nice outing after getting clobbered against Oakland. And Simeon Richardson got clobbered in his return to the Twins rotation. So the Twins have gone from having the best pitching staff in baseball in May to right now have the highest ERA in June. So hopefully this is just a rough stretch because they can't afford to take any blows to this rotation, and they need the guys to find their form.
The conversations I've had over there, they really have gotten used to being without Buxton for stretches, without Correa for stretches, even without Royce Lewis playing well. And they've built enough of a reservoir of decent position players that they can survive a little bit when they're missing a good hitter. The people over there who aren't always concerned when they lose a hitter to injury are scared to death to not have Pablo Lopez. They think this is what could ruin the season. You have an ace. If you expect to win every 5th day, you expect to get a solid number of innings, and you expect him to lead your staff, and you're replacing your best pitcher with Simeon Woods Richardson, who was just sent down because he can't get big league hitters out. It's a horrible situation. Then you compound that with Zebby Matthews getting hurt, maybe their most promising young pitcher. This is I didn't think the season was over when they were bad in April. it might be over with Pablo Lopez not being available.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it doesn't give Rocco Baldelli as the manager many options. It's not like you're calling people up that can step in. As you mentioned, they have plenty of hitters, at least on paper, that can fill in a role. But the bullpen gets stretched out. You're asking, like Bailey Ober he walked 6 guys today. He had to just leave them out there because you can't take them out in the second, third inning. I mean, there's not else you can do. What can they do other than make a move at some point?
I mean, and so the obvious question, and I'll let LaVelle address this, the obvious question is, would they trade for a starting pitcher that would get them through this, that would, hold them over until Pablo comes back? With the weird ownership situation, I just don't know if they're going to be able to spend money, and I can't imagine any pitcher out there is going to be that helpful if he just isn't making decent money. What do you think, LaVelle?
I think they should consider it, but the price is going to be pretty high, and the competition for starting pitching is going to be tough. Now, fortunately, the Dodgers apparently are hoping that they just get healthy, and some of the guys like Tyler Glass now, and they all get healthy and get back on the mound. So that takes them out of the equation, which is a big development. But Yankees wouldn't mind getting a starter. Blue Jays, starter. Orioles, starter. A bunch of other teams are looking for a starting rotation help. How far are the Twins willing to go in terms of giving up assets to get not just a good guy to prop up the back end of the rotation, but a guy who could be like a mid-rotation stabilizer at the least, So, and we don't know yet if the Polat family is ready to authorize any potential increase in payroll to make this happen. So that's the bigger question looming over this, because none of this matters unless the Twins brass realizes that you don't know when you're going to get these opportunities, and you should try to push hard when you can. And I think even with Pablo being out, him coming back in September will be a boost if they can just find a way to stabilize.
Right.
Also, if this ends up being a terrible season, then are the new owners going to come in and clean house? So there's a lot of pressure on that front office right now to make things happen pretty quickly.
Are there any pitchers available that have had 6 Tommy John surgeries or maybe only have 1 leg? Because that seems to be what this organization sometimes targets.
Well, I haven't looked at the injury report to scout for the Twins' next starter. So
I'm just a basketball guy, but I'm just saying.
These days, you want the guy who's had 6 Tommy Johns because that means he might not have another. Everybody else is going to have another Tommy John surgery.
Because after 2, you have basically a bionic elbow.
As an aside to
I like it.
As an aside to the health issues that the Twins are having, and we're reading late this afternoon, I think Dan Hazer was reporting that Bailey Ober said he was receiving death threats following his performance today. And you read something like that and you go, come on. And then you realize, no. I mean, it's scary out there with gambling and what people expect. And it's not unusual. You guys have had a lot of experience talking to other athletes and on the college level and everything else where this is the reality that we are now living in, where you put on watching your favorite sporting event and they're presenting live odds during the game that you can wager on. Like, well, so, Oklahoma City was favored by 7.5. Now it's 3.5. I'm going, well, who are you appealing to? Well, everybody who's got their phone in their hand, they can bet on it. That's who you're appealing to. So is this a carryover effect of what we're seeing in sports and gambling?
Yeah, Mark is going across the board here. And I was telling these guys I'll say it with a microphone here, that a couple years ago I was talking to a head coach of a Big Ten team during Big Ten men's basketball media days here. And his team was in Rutgers. They were up by 20 late in the second half, and the spread was 12. Rutgers hit 3 3-pointers during garbage time. He had a walk-on the court who missed like a layup with like 18 seconds left, and so they didn't cover. And the walk-on got text messages saying, "You cost me money." Yeah. So that's where we're headed with this. And coaches in college are worried about being able to protect their players from this stuff because people can get to the players easier than they can when they're professionals and live in gated communities and things like that. But being in bed with all these gambling establishments and these casinos, the lines have been blurred, and I don't see how you can't. I don't think there's a point of going back now. You're going to have to figure out a way to do this and keep everybody safe, and I'm not sure what the answer is to that.
Yeah, and I mean, it's the easy thing for me in my mid-40s to say is it's just social media. Like, why are you paying attention to it? But a lot of times these kids are literally college kids are getting this, or a 19-year-old rookie in the NBA is getting this, and they've been raised in an environment where social media is the be-all and end-all. And so to tell them not to pay attention to it or not to take it seriously I don't think is an option either. And so this is really just a door that has been opened by the leagues themselves in a grasp for money, which understandable. It's hard to find sponsors and things these days to generate the revenue that they need to, but there are consequences intended and unintended. And one of them is that you also can't say to these people, well, don't bet then. It's no big deal. You're being told every single day, 100 times a day to bet, and that this is okay and this is fun. Well, then it's opening doors for people to walk down that are kind of dark paths that a lot of people can't handle.
Yeah, this is way beyond your fantasy football leagues that we've all been a part of or watched and even enjoyed during, in particular, the NFL season, where now the leagues are in bed. I never imagined, remember going to Vegas when you couldn't make a bet at certain casinos because of the owners of the Sacramento Kings.
The Maloofs.
They owned it, and you couldn't get anywhere near there. And now it's like, hey, come on in. The water's fine. It seems like it's a dangerous thing, especially with a lot of kids out there that have.
Well, and the other problem right now, which there should be a law passed that says you cannot go onto these gambling sites and gamble with credit card as your funding. It has to be some sort of real cash that you put on the table, because it's too easy for people to get in the hole with a credit card and just get deep into it with a click of a button. And that is contributing to the panic and the desperation that comes from these bettors and why they're reaching out to these athletes and berating them like that.
That's a good point, because you're not allowed to buy a Powerball ticket with a credit card. So you can extend that to sports wagering.
That's what it should be. But the gambling lobby is so powerful that I think the odds of something like that passing are probably pretty small.
And Jim, how close are we to another scandal, whether it be a ref or someone else with the college kids being paid money? We're not quite sure with nil money, and that's expanding, and how the money's going to be distributed. But there's still the temptation, and that's the word that it is going to be there for some of these kids.
Yes. In general, the major sports these days pay their players enough. There's enough financial upside to just trying to be good at your job. There's probably less temptation for anybody in that realm. But it only takes one. It only takes one guy who thinks he's not going to have a major league career, and he can throw one game and make a lot of money. But I really think college sports are going to be really susceptible to this.
Go ahead, LaVelle.
John, what was the name of the NBA player who got busted with the gambling scheme? Because he took himself out of the lineup so he wouldn't get to numbers.
It was the guy Jon Porter in Toronto. Yeah. I mean, that's that. You can see like the people down the totem pole that are just hanging on by a fingernail, making the minimum, even though that's a lot. But if you're only going to make the minimum for a couple of years, how else can you kind of get more money and just pile it up? And there's going to be people that are vulnerable, especially I think in college, to some sort of spread kind of manipulation and things like that.
Because they're getting money now, and they got money to gamble.
Absolutely.
Right. To wrap up, go ahead, Jim.
One quick update. Rebekkah Brunson texted. She's on her way from the airport, so she'll be here at some point. And give her a hand when she gets here. She's really busting her rear end to get here.
Yeah, that'd be great. Watch they had their first loss last night, but still tough. It's always a tough competition when the Lynx are involved. They're now 9-1. To wrap up our baseball discussion, it's too bad the Twins are going through all these pitching problems, LaVelle in particular, when we're seeing Byron Buxton at his best again. I mean, what he's doing and the confidence that he's playing with, this is what we've all been kind of waiting for. If the durability is there, man, the ability is still off the charts.
Yeah, that third inning yesterday was Buxton at his best. A brilliant catch in the outfield, followed by a 479-foot home run. He went into today leading all Major League center fielders in OPS. He is back to being the boss that he was when he was making all-star games and being a force in the field and at the plate. And the thing that is really encouraging is that he's got on this heater after recovering from a concussion, because you never know the cumulative effects of having a head injury and how we've seen how it's derailed careers in this town before. Mm-hmm. And apparently he's bounced back and he's been able to play at a high level.
And the key is, this is the first time he's gone into an off season not needing to do maintenance or have surgery or repair something or rest something. So this is the first time in like 8 years he went into an off season to work on baseball skills and to show up at spring training completely healthy, and then to go into a season with no restrictions. That just hasn't happened, and the talent is there.
Yeah, it's too bad that I'm saying it's being wasted. The Twins are obviously still very much in the wild card race, but without the starting pitching, and right now, unless Bailey Ober can work between starts and figure out what the hell has gone wrong with him, that they have some issues right now. To wrap up, you mentioned, LaVelle, about, well, the Pohlad, hearing the Pohlad name again. Well, just how close are we to getting new owners compared to where we were like months ago when we first met?
Man, I cannot give you a date of where this could get finalized. The last thing I heard, which was last week, was that there are two groups that they consider to be have a legitimate interest in the club. I don't know at what stage they're at. I don't know if they're beyond kicking the tires. I don't know if there's been heart numbers exchanged, but there is legitimate interest, at least from two parties.
Yeah.
So you hope that develops into something, because they need some finality here and just a clean break here so we can move on to a new era in Twins baseball.
Yeah, that would be nice. I mean, any idea of local people involved, or does it matter?
I would imagine local people would be involved in some point at the end. As you build out these groups, have minority owners, you have limited partners, you're able to get a former player or someone involved.
Right.
What I've heard, and this could be blown out of the water by the actual news, but what I've heard is that the primary owner will not be a local person, but there might be a local person involved.
Things usually go very smoothly with ownership transitions in this town. So, what could go wrong?
We'll get to the Timberwolves in a minute. At least that looks like
this won't be a layaway plan sale.
How about Glenn Taylor and Alex Rodriguez buy the Twins together?
I love it. Let's do
wrong?
it. Do you know how many stories there would be out of that? That'd
8
be
a
great.
day.
All right, I'm going to take a deep breath as we're going to dive into this next subject, only because today in particular, for whatever reason, we've been bombarded with his name and face plastered all over the ESPNs and everything else because of OTA minicamp coming to an end. We're talking about the ongoing saga of the quarterback of the Minnesota Vikings, the yet-to-be-seen in first game of his regular season, J.J. McCarthy. I don't even know where to start with this conversation, guys, because we've all been associated, watched a lot of Viking quarterbacks come in and out of the door, and to try to characterize J.J. McCarthy as the franchise quarterback before seeing him play is difficult to do, yet at the same time, it seems as if all the chips have been pushed in the middle of the table for this young man. I don't even know. So, John, start with you in terms of expectations. What are we thinking about this guy? Because until we see him on that Monday night against the Bears, we're not going to know a whole heck of a lot more.
Yeah, I mean, it's really difficult to project, but I would say that from the beginning, I've been a McCarthy guy. I've said it before, like I grew up a pseudo Michigan fan. With my father and I would drive out to games and watch real college football when it was Jim Wacker and those guys here in town, and so we didn't have really anything to watch here in the Metrodome. So I love the kid's makeup. I think that everything about what he did in college prepared him for what he's going to do here. That said, I do think that there's a real reason that the Vikings did at least look at Aaron Rodgers with some level of interest. And so I don't necessarily think that means that McCarthy is not the guy for the long haul, but there are questions about, is he going to be ready right now? Because I think that everything around him is built up to win right now. This is a team that the window is open to go for it. And I think a lot of it does hinge on McCarthy's ability to at least, he doesn't have to be unbelievable, but he has to be good enough to make plays and to just keep the ball moving down the field. I think he can do that, but the flirtation with Rodgers makes me a little nervous about him being ready to do it right away.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead, Joe.
I think from what I've heard, I think he's going to be ready. And I think he's going to be good. No, is he going to be Patrick Mahomes? No, I think he's going to be a good rookie quarterback on a team that's well built. I just think I would rather have him than Sam Darnold. I think he's got more talent. I think he's got more upside. And he's going to make mistakes, but so did Darnold. He'll make a different brand of mistake, but I think he's going to be really good.
Here's a question I have that I don't know if Kevin O'Connell's been asked yet. I'm sure we'll wait till training camp. If you're KOC and J.J. McCarthy, we saw him play one preseason game last year, and that was it. What do you do this preseason? Because you got 3 games. You normally don't play. The other J.J., Justin Jefferson, never plays in the preseason. You got a whole new offensive line, basically. Do you put J.J. McCarthy out there to kind of make sure he gets his feet wet, but you can't put him out there with guys who aren't going to be on this football team. So what's the conundrum when you do have a situation like that with his playing time?
Well, in recent years, especially now they cut down the number of preseason games, you're having teams play other NFL teams in scrimmages.
Yeah.
And I think the coaches to get the most out of those, the most they can out of those situations.
And the Vikings are doing that with
twice,
New England
right?
this year. But they're just scrimmaging New England this year.
Yes.
Second game.
Yep. So those would be that would be the time when JJ will probably get a lot of reps against the top defense for the other team.
But will that be enough, do you think? I don't know.
So he's not going to play every preseason game. I can see him playing into maybe the second half of the first game, and I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't play anymore after that.
Yeah.
I think they're going to protect their guy and keep make sure he's not injured or susceptible to any blows that he doesn't need to take, during preseason. I'm going to say this. 2 years ago, KOC was asked about, are you going to run the ball more this year? He said yes, and they didn't. They asked him last training camp, are you going to run the ball more this year? Yes, we are, and they did just a little bit. But I think because of J.J. McCarthy and being able to keep some pressure off of him and take some of the onus off of him, I think this would be a year to dial up some more runs, especially after acquiring Jordan Mason, who looks like a pretty good running back from the San Francisco 49ers, to pair with Aaron Jones. Sorry, I'm thinking baseball there. This would be a great way to kind of ease JJ into the offense. So that's what I'm kind of curious to see transpires during training camp.
Rosie, you remember when T-Jack first arrived and Chili just would not put him out there in the preseason, and I do think that had an impact. Now, Jackson, I think, a little more limited talent-wise than what McCarthy is, but I would like to see him out there in the preseason for more than just a couple of drives. I do think that timing, rhythm, a little bit of extra would be helpful for him. And so I'm hoping we see a little bit of that. I am doubtful, though, because so many – and O'Connell comes from the Rams tree, and McVay plays no one in the entire preseason ever. And so we'll have to see how that goes.
And speaking of the Rams, I think maybe the best thing that could have happened was there was no disguising the issues the Vikings had on their offensive line after that playoff game when they had to play in Arizona. I mean, Sam Darnold got pummeled. He had no chance. They reacted. Wasn't this just the Detroit game, but the Rams game in particular. But it's been an ongoing issue for a long time. How do you got to get this offensive line looking at the Philadelphia Eagles model or what the Rams have done? Obviously, the Chiefs have done it. The best teams in the NFL normally have a really good offensive line. Jim, do you feel the Vikings have they have signed some studs, spent a lot of money.
I think they have a chance to have a top 5 offensive line. I can't remember the last time that was the case. When I first came to town, it was like they always had great offensive lines. They had Hall of Fame caliber players. And, lately they've had bookend tackles and a lot of trouble in the middle. And it's not like they didn't try. They drafted a lot of people. They signed a lot of people. And those guys, it's not that they were terrible. It's that they couldn't handle a really strong interior pass rush against better teams. Mm-hmm. And that's exactly what they ran into with Los Angeles. It's what they ran into, with Detroit. And it's just a major upgrade. It is. And it's perfect timing to have that major upgrade when you're starting essentially a rookie quarterback.
And that's another reason why you can lean into the running game a little bit more this year, because the interior of the offensive line has been upgraded. Finally, Garrett Bradbury's out of town. We have the days of watching him get dominated by other defensive tackles is over. And I was stunned that he signed so quickly once free agency opened. I think it's with the Patriots, right? I think he signed with New England.
The thing is, he's not a bad player. He just can't handle certain matchups.
Right.
And it's really hard to hide him.
Exactly. So now they've added some heat on the offensive line. Like, once again, this helps out J.J. McCarthy. Give him a better running game, dial up some more runs, use the 1-2 punch they've recreated, and make some and still throw deep to J.J. We're not going to get rid of that, or T.J. Hawkinson, but maybe play action gets into play here, and it just helps the rookie quarterback out. So I want him to succeed. He's from Chicago. He played hockey. Who better to lead Viking football than a hockey-playing quarterback?
Well, you hit it too, LaVelle. Like Jordan Mason, I'm so excited to see him play because I do think he's such a hard-running, tough dude. And we've seen in the past alleged 1-2 punches in the backfield. But, as good as Cam Akers was at times, as good as some of the other guys have been, they had limitations. I think Mason is a much more complete back, so it can be a true sharing, which might need it with Aaron Jones and his age and his injury history and all those things.
He prehabs, though.
Okay, great. Yeah, I can't wait to see how that works out.
You mentioned the little dance with Aaron Rodgers. We heard his name sporadically, of course, during this offseason, and then it became clear that the Vikings were going to just concentrate on McCarthy. But he did sign with the Pittsburgh Steelers. What are your thoughts about what kind of version of Aaron Rodgers do you think we're going to see with the Pittsburgh Steelers, with the disciplinarian like Mike Tomlin, a team that's been kind of on the downside of late when they're in playoff contention every single year? LaVelle?
I think Aaron Rodgers is going to be okay. I don't think he's going to be great. I don't think it's going to be spectacular. But I've got to imagine that he's thinking, this may be my last shot, and I'm going to put everything I got into this one last year. It was kind of a crummy year with the Jets last year. I think he'll do a little bit better than that. But I don't think he'll be like all pro. I don't think he'll be like the Aaron Rodgers from 3 or 4 years ago. I think he'll be functional. He's got DK Metcalf. He's got a good defense. He's got a strong-willed head coach, which will matter. And I think he'll be decent. Will the Steelers make the playoffs? I'm not sure, but Tomlin finds a way. He's one of the more successful coaches in the history of the NFL. He's gotten teams to the playoffs multiple times. He's dealt with alpha personalities up and down, Le'Veon Bell, and the crazy receiver.
Antonio Brown.
Antonio Brown.
Specific.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Antonio Brown. Yes, that's right. The receivers are crazy, aren't they? Yeah, Stephon Diggs. Oh my God. I think he's going to be effective, and I think the Steelers will have a solid season.
Well, the Vikings open up against your Chicago Bears on Monday Night Football with a new head coach, a quarterback that everyone's waiting to explode in year 2 with Caleb Williams. How excited are you about the product or the possibility, because they have a new head coach in Ben Johnson and a second-year quarterback?
A quarterback that desperately wanted to be with the Vikings and not the Bears,
right.
By the way.
Well, which quarterback didn't that year? They all wanted to be with KLC. Let's not limited to Caleb Williams.
Not Matt Eberflus? That's shocking.
No, just the fact that Eberflus isn't the coach will improve the Bears by 4 victories this year. I'm excited and nervous because they're pretty much starting from scratch. I'm wondering if Caleb's going to have a second rookie season, because they pretty much tore up the offensive playbook and they're building one from the studs up. And Johnson, he's been a stickler for detail. He has reamed Caleb Williams out for making mistakes. There was a practice last week in which Cole Kmet lined up 2 yards wider than he was supposed to be, and Ben Johnson dropped F-bombs on him in front of the media. Right. So he's his attention to detail is up there. So I'm excited. The Bears also rebuilt their interior offensive line. Don't know if they addressed the running game, which has me a little bit worried. But it's weird that the Bears got a more experienced quarterback on the field in week 1.
Crazy.
True. Just to reset this is the Talk North Sports Report. We really appreciate Parlay Kitchen and Bar for having us here. Thanks to Giggly for sponsoring so many of our shows. There's a Giggly table back there if you want to try a sample. They're selling Giggly up front. My wife and I drink the stuff every night. I highly recommend it. It's great stuff. After the show, we're going to give away some cool stuff over here, including LaVelle's book. And then Steve Janaszak from the 1980 Miracle on Ice team is going to sign autographs courtesy of Fan HQ, the premier sports and memorabilia store in the Twin Cities. So thank you all for being here. Rebekkah Brunson is still en route. I'm hoping she can make it for at least part of the show. And back to Mark.
All right, thanks, Jim. Yeah, I hope she does too. It was 5-time WNBA champion. She's had a big impact in this community for lots of reasons.
It should be in the Hall of Fame.
Should definitely be in the Hall of Fame.
No kidding. All right, let's switch gears. We mentioned about trades and everything for the Minnesota Timberwolves. I go to Jon Krawczynski here, Johnny Athletic, of course. Again, we talked about J.J. McCarthy being in the news all day today for different reasons. Can't get away from Kevin Durant conversation. The draft is a couple of weeks away. According to some national sources, you got more sources than anybody else. The Timberwolves may have edged ahead of potentially other teams that will land Kevin Durant. What are the chances in your mind as we sit here maybe a couple of weeks away, from if not sooner, that Tim Connolly is going to pull another rabbit out of his hat, and Kevin Durant is going to have Anthony Edwards as a new teammate?
Yeah, I mean, I think that trades in this day and age are really hard to pull off, but what we've seen from Tim Connolly already is that in these 3 short years, he pulls off big trades every single year. And so he is being aggressive. He is trying to get into the conversation. I would say he is in the conversation for Kevin Durant. The question will be, what do the Phoenix Suns want? If they want to stay relevant and be competitive immediately next season, I think that the Wolves are in great shape to land him. If you put a package together around Julius Randle or Rudy Gobert or someone like that, and then a young player and maybe a pick, now you're giving the Suns something that they can build around for the immediate future around Devin Booker, Bradley Beal, those types of things. If the Suns are valuing future flexibility, kind of resetting with draft picks and young players and things like that, and taking a step back this next season, then I think San Antonio, a few other teams are going to be able to offer more of that kind of draft capital and young talent that would intrigue the Suns and maybe have them leapfrog the Wolves. So the Wolves are absolutely in the conversation. I wouldn't say they're favorites, but I would say that given Tim Connolly's ability to do this over the last couple of years, I think they have to be viewed as a real threat here.
Would you rather see a Julius Randle traded or a Rudy Gobert? Who's more valuable to stay here with Minnesota?
Yeah, it's hard. It's a hard one to kind of decide on, because I do think that Rudy Gobert's defense gives this team a floor that is much higher than people will realize, just looking at the way that he fumbles passes, the way that he, cannot shoot outside of 1 foot. Like that's kind of stuff that's frustrating to watch as a fan. But what you don't necessarily pick up on or see in the box score is the way that he deters people coming to the rim, what he does defensively for them. And Randle, as good as he was in the first 2 rounds of the playoffs, was kind of the pumpkin, or the stagecoach turns into a pumpkin again in the Western Conference Finals. So he has limitations as well. And I think it would be easier to slot in KD to that power forward spot and move Randle out, and then you still have Rudy there.
Right.
But what we've seen the Indiana Pacers do to the Thunder in the finals is offense everywhere. And so the Wolves are thinking about that as well, as if you move Rudy out, maybe you do take a step back defensively, but man, you are so much more of a threat offensively at all 5 positions that could be the way to go.
The Celtics won a title last year because you had to guard all 5 guys.
Yeah. And the Indiana Pacers are beating the Thunder right now because all 5 of their dudes have to be respected.
Yeah.
And we saw that in the conference finals. The Thunder just did not respect Rudy Gobert. They sort of kind of respected Jaden McDaniels and Julius Randle, but not really. And so to have someone like Durant on the floor, even with Randle or Naz Reid in a front court, they might not be locked down defensively, but you know that you have to cover them all defensively, and that opens things up for Anthony Edwards in a way that he wouldn't have otherwise.
Who are the more important guys to try to keep, among Naz Reid, Rudy Gobert, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Dante DiVincenzo? Those are the names that are bandied about. You're not going to keep all of them for maybe other reasons besides the Durant situation.
Yeah, even absent the Durant situation, I do think that essentially they're going to have to pick 2 of the 3 of Randle, Reid, and Nickeil Alexander-Walker. And my indications is that Randle and Reid are the more likely if they don't make a big Durant trade or someone else, and if they kind of stay mostly status quo, that those 2 will be the ones who stay, that Alexander-Walker will be the one who kind of prices himself out of here. And one of the reasons being is that if you lose Alexander Walker, it would be a big loss. He's been a great player here, a great leader for this team, but you have Jalen Clark, you have Terrence Shannon Jr., you have Rob Dillingham, you have some pieces in the backcourt that can slide into those minutes, maybe a little bit easier. I think they're a little more concerned about Luka Garza, Leonard Miller as their options behind Reid and Randle.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's an interesting thing because, and you think whatever is going to happen, is the draft kind of the circle your wagons moment that this is probably going to happen either before and after? And Tim Connolly, we know, pull a rabbit out of a hat. He could surprise all of us with a different kind of move.
For sure. Yeah, I think that the most likely scenario is that the week of the draft or even on draft night, if Durant is moved, that's when it's going to happen. And so if the Wolves are in that and they make that deal, okay. If not, if they come out of the draft and they keep 17 and 31 and they have largely the same roster and now they're looking toward signing guys and free agency and things like that, I think you're going to see the focus much more put on, okay, does Julius Randle pick up his option? Do you extend him? Naz Reid, what can you get him done for? And they really kind of work that way. But draft night is sort of the deadline night for a lot of these deals to happen.
How big a say or voice does Mark Lowry and Alex Rodriguez have, even though they haven't officially been stamped as the new ownership and they haven't taken over, but they kind of have taken over?
I think by draft night I think they're going to have more of an official passing of the torch. So sometime in the next few weeks, we'll go through it and they'll have the final approvals, get voted in. Maybe it's not exactly draft night, but everyone knows it's going to happen now. There's no more debate. It's just a rubber stamp and when that's going to happen. And so even if it's not official by draft night, it's still going to be Lowry and Rodriguez are going to be the ones calling the shots and not Glenn Taylor at that point.
Well, there's a lot to look forward to. I think, it's something that when you get a taste of how far the Wolves have gone the last couple of years in particular, you don't want to stop now when you watch, OKC and you think, well, man, this team ain't going anywhere. But they got their hands full right now, and that's a bit of a surprise as well. So for GMs, it's a busy time across town in St. Paul. This is a big offseason for Tim Connolly. Maybe even a bigger offseason for Bill Guerin, Jim Souhan, because everyone's been waiting. Parisi and Suter's money is now off the table. Now we have all this gobs. They don't really have gobs of money, but there seems like they're still kind of limited. All we keep hearing about is, are they going to trade Marco Rossi or not? That's kind of the whole central focus of this offseason. We watched the Stanley Cup final. This team's a long ways from being there.
It's a long way. And any money they save by getting the Parisi and Suter deals off the books is probably going to go directly to Kirill Kaprizov.
Yeah.
They have to sign him, and they have to give him whatever he asks for because they don't have a team without him. And Marco Rossi is just, what you hear from behind the scenes is that Bill Guerin just doesn't really like Marco Rossi.
Correct.
But they can't afford to trade away good young scorers. What are they thinking?
Yeah.
So they need to sign Kaprizov, they need to keep Rossi, and they need to find more people like Kaprizov and Rossi, and I don't know that they're going to be able to with their financial limitations.
Yeah, there's not a lot. That you said it best. Financial limitations. It doesn't seem. And then the irony is they need a center, and now they're talking about trading a young center.
It makes no sense. They need to work with Rossi. They need goal scorers. If he has flaws, guess what? The guy you're bringing in to replace him is going to have flaws to work with him.
Yeah, there's rumors of $15 million a year floating around Kaprizov now.
Kaprizov is going to get paid like an NBA player.
Yeah, and which
that's crazy.
I think the Wild have
That's
to
Nickeil
sign.
Alexander Walker money.
Well, stop.
Right.
That's what he's going to get paid.
You cannot pair the hockey puck to the round ball. So the thing about Kirill too is that he missed half the season this year. He missed 7 games last year. I think he missed 15 the year before that. Do they have to be worried that he's going to be able to stay on the ice for at least 70 games a year to justify that the amount of money that he's requesting? I think that's going to be an issue. And I don't know what Bill doesn't like about Rossi. I know the guy can't grow a beard, but I know he's only
that might be enough for Bill.
It might not. He's only like 5'8", 5'9". I don't know if you just
He's
want
not a
size bigger guy. But
if you had a lot of guys who could score, then fine, get rid of them. But you got to score. People love talking about the physicality of hockey and the grit and all that stuff. The team that scores more goals wins the game.
Right.
They need more goal scorers.
And there
that's
was
some smart analysis.
Hey,
but
hockey people forget that. They think it's like who looks tougher, who has more hits. You got to score goals.
there were times during the season when Wild's top line was it. You knew after the second and third line was come on the ice, they were going to have problems putting the puck in the net. So
that's not going to get solved in 1 year.
No.
No.
I keep hearing Brock Besser wants to come home. If that's the case, I would sign him and put him on a wing. if they do walk away from Rossi, then they got to find another top 6 center. Brock Nelson re-signed with the Avs.
Right.
That's not good. John Tavares, Sam Bennett's the hot talk now because he hasn't re-signed yet, and he's a gritty player, kind of like Harrison Eck. Mm-hmm. He could easily be the number 2 or number 1 center in that scenario. But once again, if you're paying Kirill upwards of $15 million next year, how much you're going to have to be really, really make impact moves on the free agent market?
We're a couple blocks away from Target Center, and I know people get arena stadium fatigue in every city. We're no exception, but it's on the table. John, I don't know what you've heard from the new ownership. I know even Alex Rodriguez, when he was talking to me about it a year and a half ago. How are they going to move the needle on that, and how far away are we from having that kind of a big meeting to get this thing done?
I would expect that not long after Alex Rodriguez and Mark Lowry take over, you're going to hear real conversations about arena plans and things like that. I do not know where it's going to be, but I know they've looked at a lot of sites.
Yeah.
Alex Rodriguez is on the record saying that it's going to be privately financed. We'll see about how all of that plays out as well.
Right.
But they know that it's a priority. Target Center is the second oldest building in the league. And so it has to be done, and they're going to be aggressive in trying to make that happen.
Now we got the star of the show here.
Yes,
let's have a nice warm welcome for Rebekkah Brunson. Fresh Rebekkah, we so appreciate you making the time. I know you guys had a late night.
Through traffic to get here. Thank you.
Yeah, rush hour traffic, late night flight, or early morning flight from Seattle. Take a deep breath. Welcome. We really appreciate you being here. Thanks so much.
Thank you. I'm glad you all are still here. I was like, please, just anybody still be here.
We're going to hold up the show. 5-time WNBA champion. The only one you can say that about. Assistant coach, of course, with the Lynx right now. I got to ask you, because I was intently watching last night. It was an intense game. Your only loss so far this season, 9-1. No disgrace in that. But what was kind of the mood of the players like after a kind of a salty loss to a tough Seattle team last night?
I mean, you have to remind yourselves that you can't win them all, right? It felt really good the way that we started. I think there was, for the players, a lot of disappointment. And it's not about the loss itself. It was just about the way that we lost and walking away from the game feeling like there were some things within our control that we could have done better. But it's part of the journey.
Yeah.
Time to learn from some losses instead of trying to fix things after wins, right? Take it a little bit more seriously there.
Well, you've been through it as a player a number of times, and certainly this group has been as well. When you got Nafisa Collier, I want to ask you about her, obviously, in a minute, that the maturity is there to kind of go, hey, it's one game. We'll get back at it. We'll be focused for what we need to do next. It's a long season.
It is, and our group is so steady in that way. Right, we don't have a group that gets extremely high. You just mentioned Fee, one of the most humble stars in our league, right? So she understands that you can't get too high, and then after a loss, you don't get too low. You just keep going, understanding it's all part of the journey, and get prepared for the next game. And we play our next game in 2 days at noon, so there's not a lot of time to think about it, just to move on, get better, and then figure out how to win the next one.
Rebekkah, I remember when your team drafted Nafisa, 6th pick in the draft, and the vibe I got from people in your organization was nice player, nice fit, good solid person to be in your rotation. How does she go from that to being maybe the best player in the world?
I think, when Fee got drafted, I wasn't a part of the team at that point, but when Fee got drafted, a lot of people felt like, okay, what does she do? She's not really a 3. She's kind of small to be a 4. So she was in this space of, yeah, she's good, but what is she going to be able to be great at? And I think the way that she approaches the game, her work ethic, somebody who's, for the past 2 seasons been in the MVP conversation, has been the first person in the gym and the last person out, right? As far as her approach to trying to get better, it's always that way for her. So she plays, and she plays extremely hard, and she's such a smart basketball player. She makes all of the right reads. She's going to cut when she needs to cut. She's going to help when she needs to help, right? So she's always finds herself in the right place because she understands what it takes to win the game.
Have you noticed more? I'm not just going to call it the Caitlin Clark effect, but obviously the attendance is up. People, the television ratings are doing really well. People are locked into watching the games, and have the crowds become more engaged, more knowledgeable about what's going on out there, and they get to know the personalities on these basketball teams now. Every city you play in.
Yeah, I mean, it is a bit of a Caitlin Clark effect. So I think that is right, because she's brought a lot of attention to women's basketball. And I do feel like there are more fans, and they are very interested in the personal stories. Now, are they the most educated fans? Do they understand the game? Do they understand the history of the league? Do they understand the type of players that have already been here? No, I can't say that. But first, it's the visibility. First, it's getting people into the stands and wanting to start to be engaged. And we have that now. So then you'll get the knowledge, and then you'll get people who really understand and sit and have conversations like this and really start to understand the players that this league has been built on, and just kind of grow as far as like their basketball knowledge. I mean, that's not just women. That's fans in general, no matter what sport, male, female. There are people that just watch it, and there are people that understand it. All right, so right now we have a lot of people that watch it, and I'm so grateful for that. And as we grow, we'll get more people that understand it.
BB, it feels like for the first time in a long time, the WNBA has an edge over the NBA in terms of these fans get to know the college players for 4 years, 5 years, and you really build. It's a Caitlin Clark, it's a Paige Beckers. Like, you see them go through trials and tribulations, their highs and lows, but they're there for a long time, and they really build a brand before they get to you guys, and then you can capitalize on that. Where you see the NBA, they'll be the draft in a couple of weeks, and you've seen guys for 2 months on a campus. Like, how do you think that affects maybe just the ability to really kind of maximize the attention that the college game gets, and now kind of leapfrog into where your game is at?
I think you hit that like right on the nose. I think that it's been so important for the women's game, is that you do get to follow the collegiate players throughout their career, and then you have, some attachment to them, and that follows them to the WNBA. And I think that, you're right with the fact that hurts the NBA in a sense, because now you're in this period where the superstars that you knew are leaving, and you have no attachment to these young guys that are playing right now. So it was different back before there was the one and done, and before you can go straight. I mean, you had your few that went from high school to the pros, but before that, you followed guys at Duke, at Kentucky. You followed those teams, and then that led you to be fans of what they were going to do at the next level. So I don't know if you can say that I won't say that specifically hurts the NBA, but I do think that there's less of an attachment to certain players, where on the W side, we have that still, and it's been important for the growth of our league.
Mm-hmm. What do you think as far as the advancement of the sport with the collective bargaining agreement? There's a new one coming, right? I mean, how have you seen the improvements from your playing time to today in terms of flying, hotels, just everything about the ease in which you're playing? And also, let's face it, the bottom line, the money has got to be getting better.
I mean, well, we just chartered in from the Four Seasons, and that definitely was not what we were doing when I was playing. So our hotels were different. We were sitting in line for Southwest flights.
Right.
And it was part of what we had to do to ensure that the women are getting now what we deserve to get as female athletes. But it's completely different. I mean, I have this conversation now. We have Way on the staff, so I get to talk to Lindsay Whalen, and we're like, okay, we're going through situations of, okay, we want to recruit this player, and how much would we pay this player, and we're like elbowing each other, like, what is happening right now? That player for that, okay, all right. So we're getting used to it now, but I mean, it's such a great place, and we're really excited to see that not only last CBA collective bargaining agreement, then players start to get what they deserve as far as the pay went up. You now have maternity exceptions where you don't lose out on your pay if you're pregnant. So some of those things that we didn't necessarily have that we see these players have, it was very, very exciting in the last CBA, and we know that is about to change again with the new collective bargaining agreement because, the players have figured out that they have a little bit of leverage now. And I think that Unrivaled absolutely helped that. The Unrivaled is the 3-on-3 league that Nafisa is a part of the ownership group of. Right. They played out in Miami this year, but, their sponsorship was great. The fans were great. The interactions that they got from social media were great. They had a TV deal their first year putting this on. So now when the players that were a part of Unrivaled go to the league and start to talk about what they want to do for this new CBA, they're like, hey, this is not impossible. You cannot tell us this is impossible because we've seen it, right? So they have a lot of power, and what they're going to be able to do is continue to move the needle forward. But it's really, really exciting to see that we didn't get stuck where we were, right? We have continued to grow and will continue to grow as a league.
Rebekkah, how about the end of the game last night?
Yeah, I want to ask you about that, too.
Kayla kind of getting into it. I loved it. I was watching, I'm like, hell yes, let's go. Like, how did you see things unfold that way, and just, like, I guess the level of competition and drive in Kayla to react the way that she did?
Absolutely. Well, first, Kayla's one of the most competitive people on our team, right? She goes out and she competes every night for us. And, it's an unspoken rule. It's a sportsmanship rule. And is there anything in the books that says that if you're up, you can't take the final shot? No, there's nothing that says that. But there's supposed to be a certain level of respect there that you have for your opponent, that I don't want to embarrass you. I don't want to make you look bad. I don't want to pat my stats. We have the win, which is what's most important, and that's enough. So when they kind of egged it on, it was a couple players trying to push one player to go and get a layup. When there's 20 seconds left on the game, we're down 8. It's it, right? You've won. It was a sign of a little bit of disrespect for Kayla, and she wanted them to know that that wasn't going to be something that they would just be able to get away with treating not her, but treating her team in that way, because we wouldn't be disrespectful in that way. We haven't shown that throughout the beginning of the season. So a little bit of a flex your chest a little bit. Let people know where you stand, that you're not going to be disrespected. But good for her for standing up for her teammates in that way.
Rebekkah, you do TV broadcasts, previewing and reviewing Timberwolves games, so you're connected with that organization. Organization works out of the same space. And we've never seen the Lynx and the Timberwolves be this good at the same time together in the history of the franchises. Are there any commonalities that both organizations do well, or are they completely different?
No, I think the commonalities are probably when you look at the leadership group on both sides. We've shared the same ownership group, but, bringing in, a coach like Chris Finch, and who I think really sees the game similarly to Cheryl, in the way that they try to bring in players that are good people, not just good athletes, right? They have a real good culture that they've built over there. So you see it with the style of coaching, but then you see the culture that is in place. And that's why I feel like the Lynx have been able to be successful for so long, because of our culture. It's been about having good players, but it's been about having good people, too, that are going to sacrifice for themselves for the betterment of the team. And you can see that they're building that on the Wolves side. So it's been really fun over the past couple seasons to kind of watch them start to put the pieces together. When I'm in the practice facility, to see the way that they interact with each other, the way that they care for each other. Is not a ton of ego in that space. And that, I feel like, allows them to find the success and will allow them to continue, to find success. I know that the Wolves are going to have to go through some type of transition here when you think about, their roster and the pieces that they may lose or the pieces that they may add. But I hope that they stay true to the identity and the culture that they've continued to build, because that's what's going to be able to keep them successful.
Again, we're talking to five-time WNBA champion Rebekkah Brunson, assistant coach with the Minnesota Lynx. Did you ever envision your journey ending up the way it is right now? And obviously, it's not over. But having played here, you played elsewhere in the WNBA, became an institution here, and with some great basketball teams. But here you are, still involved very much in the community and with this basketball team.
I love Minnesota. It's funny. I probably would have never picked Minnesota to call home when I hadn't spent a lot of time here. But it's an amazing place, and I'm glad that I get to not just be here by myself, but raise my two boys here. Right. To see them find their own groups and kind of grow in that way. So that's been really cool. But I think as far as like me being able to coach now and be a part of basketball in that way, and then be able to be on the analyst side of it, I give a lot of credit to Jim Peterson, because when he was coaching me, he was doing both, right? And I would talk to him about how it was to balance the 2 seasons, the way that he was able to, be in the coaches' meetings and learn from that side of it, and then translate that on his broadcast for what he was able to see from the Wolves. So I definitely give him a lot of credit for where I've gone professionally. But I mean, as far as the city, Minnesota's a great place to be, and I'm enjoying still being here and being able to be in the community as well as be a part of basketball.
Rebekkah, you're going to have four of your teammates that you play with the Lynx as champions in the Hall of Fame. What is that? How does that make you feel? And who do we need to beat up in order to get you to be the 5th person from that team to be elected to the Hall of Fame?
I don't have any names at this point, but when I get some, I'll slide them down. No, I knew that I had really, really amazing teammates when I was going on a journey with them, all right? And very special players. You think about Simone, you think about Lindsay Whalen, you think about Taj as well, you think about Maya Moore, you think about Sylvia Fowles. There's so many elite athletes that I had the opportunity to play with. Before that, I played with Tisha Penichero, Yolanda Griffin. So, I mean, I've been extremely blessed on my basketball career to play with some great, great players. But I'm just excited for them. I can't say that I'm surprised to know that they're all going to be in the Hall of Fame, but I am excited that they get to add that to their accolades and get to be remembered in that way, because they were like top-notch athletes. I mean, there are situations where I played with them where I would sit and watch them and marvel in them because they were so good, right? But I'm extremely excited for them, and I feel just blessed to be able to have them as part of my teammates.
And by the way, let's not let Rebekkah undersell herself. 5 times, the only person to win 5 WNBA titles. Also, she had the most rebounds in the history of the league when she retired. And she was also the best defensive player on 4 championship teams. So she should be in the Hall.
Absolutely.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you.
The one constant with all the changes and all the players you mentioned is your head coach, Cheryl Reeve. Is she the same coach as she was 7-8 years ago? It doesn't seem like she's lost her edge looking at her on the sidelines.
No edge lost. No. I think she's the same player and the same coach and what she expects from her players and what she's going to try to do to be able to bring the best out of them. I think that's always been what she's about, is making sure that she assembles the best people, the best players, and then kind of implements the fact that they could be better than they even think that they can be. I think that is Cheryl's superpower. She will make you believe that you are better than you actually are. And that creates an amazing team. That creates, and it's beyond the stars. It's like that creates an amazing bench. That means your 6th, your 7th, 8th has this belief in themselves that they can do or keep up with doing everything else that the others are doing, because they're going to be like kind of demanded to do those same things. So no, her edge is not lost. And I think that's the reason we started the way that we did.
When Tibbs was here, he had Taj Gibson, who when Tibbs was breathing fire, it would be Taj that grabbed a young guy or put his arm around him and said, "Hey, here's what coach means. Here's how it's like." Do you find yourself as having the experience of being in the firing line before as a coach now with some of the players who get it in film sessions and practice? Do you help them that way, or how do you kind of approach when Cheryl is being demanding and like she is able to do? Like, how do you kind of help the players absorb whatever feedback she gives that way?
Yeah, I think that's probably one of the biggest things that I'm able to do, is because I'm able to take the message outside of its presentation, right? So I can pull them aside and say, hey, this is what you need to do. And it's not even necessarily this is what Cheryl's saying, but I'm going to tell you what she means without there being the heat behind it, right? Afterwards, after everything happened, maybe after the game, maybe it's a film session that we could sit down and say, okay, this is what she's talking about, right? And then remind them that we have the common goal. Remind them that we're all on the same team. Remind them that what you're being asked to do or what you're being told that you may be doing wrong it's not personal. It's just about us. So I think that I can honestly say, like, I've been through it all. We had a situation. It's funny because I was talking to Cheryl last night after the game where we had made a decision, and as a staff, at the end of that game, we took Courtney Williams out, and she didn't get put back in. And it wasn't on purpose. It just was the flow of the game. It just kind of happened, and she was upset about it. And I'm like, I got benched in the finals. Like, game 5, like, I got benched. I came out of halftime, I didn't start. So this is not a personal thing to you. Sometimes we make decisions as coaches. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. But instead of you being upset about what just happened, let's think about why that just happened. Let's think about, what we can do differently to make sure that doesn't happen. So I've been in all the situations that these players have been in. No matter the good ones, the bad ones, the ugly, whatever it is, I've been there. So let me let you know it's not about you. Let's talk about how to get better.
With Courtney, that's going to be
Tim
fuel.
Connolly here. We have to make a trade. John had to be out, and he's actually overdue. So John's out. Steve Janaszak is up. Please give John a hand for being here with us tonight.
Yep.
Steve Janaszak from the 1980 Miracle on Ice team is going to join us. Steve's going to be signing autographs through Fan HQ over there after the show. So we'll welcome Steve to the show.
Steve Janaszak, my goodness. I feel like I've gone back in a time machine here because we spent a lot of time together, certainly at the University of Minnesota when you were here, but more importantly for those 2 weeks in a little place called Lake Placid, New York. We know why, because you got that gold medal, and it was, I can't believe it was how many years ago it was, but I sometimes feel like time stood still, and it's great to see you. You're doing well, my friend?
Thank you very much. Doing really well. Thank you.
When you think back to those days, I'm sure, sometimes you think, well, the years go by so fast, but we went back for reunions at various times in Lake Placid. It all comes back to you. I mean, things happen in our lifetime. They're here and they're gone, and you never remember them. What is it about that time in Lake Placid that will stick with you forever?
Well, there are two things actually. Number one was it's the David versus Goliath story, right? It's one of the greatest stories in the history of humanity. And the other thing is that I think, given the state of affairs in the world at the time, a lot of people related to that. We gave Americans an identity, that we're searching for an identity. And Americans love an underdog. I think it's something about our culture that we relate to an underdog, and from time to time we lose that. We kind of get down on things, and here we had a group of college guys that came and stuck it to the bad old Russians.
Yeah, it was something. I think people who watched the movie Miracle, maybe who weren't alive even when that was happening, really got to relive it. And I think back to the speech that the late Herb Brooks made, and I was privy to see what he was doing, not in the locker room that night, but was it exactly like it was?
It was pretty close. It was pretty close. And the one really cool thing about that movie is right before that speech, the camera comes in and pans on Herb Brooks in the locker room, or in the coach's room, and he's looking at the lineup card. And the lineup card is actually written in Herb Brooks' handwriting. He was still alive at the time they were filming the movie, and so we're watching that at the premiere.
Right.
You see guys going down, shaking each other like, "Oh my God, it's Herbie's handwriting." So Kurt Russell did an amazing job with Herb Brooks. I played for Herbie for 5 years, and there were times when Kurt Russell would turn his back to the camera. I thought I was watching Herb Brooks. There's one scene where he takes the stick and he flips it over and he starts scratching on the ice with the toe of the stick with his back to the camera, saying, "Oh my God, that's Herb."
He really studied his idiosyncrasies, that's for sure. Oh man, so life is good. Where are you living right now?
Living out on the East Coast. Met my wife in Lake Placid.
I wanted to have you tell that story, because we go back to 1980. What was she doing in Lake Placid then?
She was an interpreter in the Olympic Village. She had a minor in French, and I think we were the first Americans, because we were there a week early. We played the Russians at Madison Square Garden. I think we were the first Americans that she saw. So she had been speaking French all of a sudden there's a bunch of USA jackets and.
Oh, you smooth talking dude, man. Come on, this is how you met your future wife.
Not at all, man. She came down to throw us out of some chairs, and I struck up a conversation, and we were married a year later.
Oh, that's fantastic. It's an amazing story. I remember hearing about it back then. Yeah, it's
Thank
great.
You. Luckiest guy in that team.
Yeah.
I have a question for the two champions at the. Sorry, LaVelle. For the two champions at the table, how much does it change your life to actually win it all?
I will defer because I'm older. I've seen more of it.
How much does it change your life? I don't think it changes much, but I think that you get the reward of something that you've worked 20, 25, 30 years for, being dedicated to something. So I don't know if it changes it, but it makes a lot of it worth it. Yeah, I'll tell you that much. It makes a lot of the sacrifices that you make along the way to be able to be at the top, and then to be able to compete for a championship and to be able to win it. So it's just rewarding. It doesn't change, but it definitely makes a lot of the things that you gave up worth it. And then for a team sport, because I played a team sport, it creates a bond with those people, right? Being in the trenches with your teammates and being able to overcome all of the obstacles that you have to face together and being so entwined with what you want to do and the goals that you have, to be able to figure it all out, to be able to work through everything, to be able to adjust, and to be able to continue to stay connected. Like, those are bonds that you probably carry with you for the rest of your life. Those are friendships that you don't lose.
You'll carry them with you for the rest of your life. And that's people don't understand the power that comes when 15, 20 people live and breathe and think as one individual. And the egos go by the wayside, and all of a sudden you're just all in that boat together, all pulling at the oars that's going the same direction. The power of that is unbelievable. And I would reinforce that it doesn't change your life, because you're still who you are and you still work the same way you do, but it is darn rewarding, because all that sweat and effort and all of the trauma that you go through, that's just the price to get in the building, man. And you don't always win. So when it happens, it sure feels good.
Well, it's a great point, Steve, and extraordinary time, and I'm glad that the next generations had a chance to experience what we got to experience, me as a reporter, you as a player, what happened in 1980. It seems like a lifetime ago, but in many ways it seems like it was just like yesterday. And Rebekkah Brunson, I can't thank you enough for hustling downtown after being in Seattle last night and being a part of our podcast today. It's a pleasure to always see you, and continued success. And eventually we want to kick out of the New York Liberty. So I hope you're going to be able to they make that happen for all the Lynx fans.
You guys don't play until like late July.
I don't think
Schedule's
so.
really weird
I know
this year.
it is. Well, they tried. You know what? They tried to get us to play them for their ring ceremony, which I feel like was a little, again, disrespectful to us as a team, as a franchise. So we said no to that. No, we're not going to do that. But so that pushed it back a little bit, but that's fine. We'll be ready, and hopefully everybody will be watching, tuned in, and supporting us for that one.
For sure. Again, thanks to Rebekkah Brunson, Steve Janaszak, LaVelle Neal, Jon Krawczynski. Jimmy, you want to wrap it up? But we really appreciate everybody coming down here to the Parlay for Talk North Sports Podcast.
Nice work, Mark, as always. Thank you all for being here. We really appreciate it. Steve is going to be signing autographs for the Fan HQ right over there after the show. Some of us will be hanging around, and we are going to give away some cool stuff over here. Twins tickets. Is that a Rebekkah Brunson ball?
Yeah, Rebecca's going to sign that.
Fantastic. Hat. We have some giggly stuff and LaVelle's book. So we are quite blessed to have the people we have with us here today. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you.
And we'll do it again.
Thank you.